The world first met Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri as an angry young man railing in English from a courtroom cell in Cairo.
We are here, the real Islamic Front.
That was 30 years ago, when Zawahiri was an Islamic revolutionary in Egypt. He was arrested with hundreds of others for the assassination of Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. After 3 years in prison, Zawahiri left Egypt for a lifetime of terror. In 1998, he joined forces with Osama bin Laden. As al-Qaeda's number 2, Zawahiri was at the core of every major attack, including 9/11. Following bin Laden's killing by U.S. Navy SEALs, Zawahiri seized control.
He is as deadly a threat as we've faced before.
Bruce Riedel, who spent 3 decades at the CIA chasing al-Qaeda, says Zawahiri wants to tighten his grip on the terror network.
Zawahiri, to cement his authority, he has to carry out terror. He has to produce a significant terrorist attack which has his fingerprints on it.
So to establish his credentials, his standing in the terror world, he needs to attack.
Sooner or later, you can't just talk about terror and expect to be regarded as a terrorist mastermind. You've got to orchestrate terror.
But Zawahiri's al-Qaeda, centered in Pakistan, has been battered by relentless drone strikes and may not be capable of another large-scale attack. So Zawahiri has used a dozen audio and video messages since bin Laden's death to inspire strikes by al-Qaeda affiliates and homegrown radicals within the U.S. Juan Zarate, who was on the National Security Council of the George W. Bush White House, says Zawahiri's propaganda might help the U.S. find him.
Anytime he pops his head up, like a prairie dog, he can be found, or a trace back to him can be found.
So the dilemma for Zawahiri is he needs to message to stay relevant, but when he messages, he becomes vulnerable.
That's right.
U.S. officials say if they get a clear shot at Zawahiri, they'll take it. Riedel says he suspects Zawahiri, like bin Laden, is hiding in a populated center somewhere deep inside Pakistan.
Is it important to take Zawahiri off the battlefield?
Absolutely. This is a resourceful and smart guy, and it's important that we get him as soon as possible.
September 1992, al-Qaeda's second-in-command, Ayman al-Zawahiri, is said to have visited Bosnia many times from around this date. A prominent Muslim Bosnian politician later claims that al-Zawahiri visited Mujahideen camps in central Bosnia as early as September of '92. The Egyptian government, which considers al-Zawahiri an important enemy, claims al-Zawahiri is running several Mujahideen operations in Bosnia through charity fronts. They also claim he meets regularly with Bosnian Muslim politicians in Sarajevo. He is further said to occasionally meet with Iranian government representatives to discuss the war in Bosnia, as Iran is supplying weapons to the Bosnian Muslims. Anwar Shaaban, a radical imam leading the Bosnian Mujahideen effort from Milan, Italy, remains in regular contact with al-Zawahiri, according to Italian intelligence. In 1993, bin Laden reportedly put Zawahiri in charge of the organization's operations in the Balkans. By 1994, al-Zawahiri will settle in Bulgaria to manage operations in Bosnia and the rest of the Balkan region. The Islamic Cultural Institute Mosque in Milan, Italy, is dominated by Gamma Islamiyah, the Egyptian militant group led by Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, known as the Blind Sheikh. The imam of the mosque is Anwar Shaaban, is a leader of that group and also a leader of the Mujahideen effort in Bosnia. The Islamic Cultural Institute serves as a transient and logistical base for Mujahideen coming on or going to Bosnia. After the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, U.S. investigators will discover heavy phone traffic between the Milan Mosque and the New Jersey City Mosque run by Abdul Rahman, the Masjid al-Salam. Furthermore, they learned that bomber and mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, Ramzi Yousef, used the Milan Mosque as a logistical base as well. Yousef also prayed at the mosque prior to the World Trade Center bombing. Shaaban is a close friend of Talat Fouad Qasim, another leader of Al-Gamma Islamiyah and one of the highest-ranking members of the Mujahideen fighting in Bosnia. Qasim is directing the flow of volunteers to Bosnia while living in political asylum in Denmark. In April of 94, 7 Arab men living in Denmark, including Qasim, are arrested, and U.S. prosecutors will later claim that fingerprints on documents and videotapes seized from the men matched fingerprints on bomb manuals that Ahmed Ajaj was carrying when he entered the United States with Yousef on September 1st of 92. A raid on one apartment in Denmark uncovers bomb formulas, bomb-making chemicals, and sketches of attack targets, some videotapes of Rahman's sermons, and a pamphlet claiming responsibility for the World Trade Center bombing and promising more attacks. Also, phone records and documents found in Abdul Rahman's Jersey City apartment show the men in Denmark were communicating regularly with Abdul Rahman. But no one in either Milan or Denmark will be charged with a role in the World Trade Center bombing. Danish police will later say that none of the seized documents indicated that the Arab men personally took part in the bombing. The men all are released, and ironically, 2 of them are granted political asylum in Denmark because they are members of Al-Gamma Islamiyah, which the Danish consider to be a persecuted group. In 1995, an Italian magistrate will issue arrest warrants for Shaaban and 60 other extremists, but Shaaban will flee to Bosnia, where he will die of bullet wounds in unexplained circumstances. The U.S. government will later call the Islamic Cultural Institute Al-Qaeda's main logistical base in Europe, and some evidence will link figures connected to the 9/11 plot. In late 93, the FBI discovered that World Trade Center bomber Ramzi Yousef used a mosque in Italy known as the Islamic Cultural Institute and made phone calls out of the institute to Brooklyn, New York. The Italian government begins investigating the mosque and soon discovered that the main European headquarters for Al-Gamma Islamiyah, a radical Egyptian group, is also the logistical base for Mujahideen fighters traveling in Bosnia. 17 people are indicted on June 25th, 1995, as Italian police raid the mosque in over 70 locations in northern Italy. Inside the mosque, police find forgery tools, letters to wanted radicals around the world, and hundreds of false documents. Plots to bomb targets in other countries and a U.S. target elsewhere in Italy are averted. Shaaban escaped arrest as he had already left the country, but later killed in Croatia. December 14th, 1995, Anwar Shaaban, an Islamic militant in charge for logistics, was killed in Croatia. Shaaban had been based at the Islamic Institute Mosque in Milan. His death created unusual circumstances because no one was reported to have murdered him. But on December 14, 95, the same day, a peace accord is signed ending the Bosnian War. It was then suspected that Shaaban was killed by Croatian troops in what Mujahideen claimed was an ambush. Shaaban's diary is found, and it cites regular meetings between al-Qaeda leaders and leaders of the Bosnian Muslim government, including General Staff Chief Rasim Delic and Interior Minister Bakir Aspak. Shaaban, a leader of the Al-Gamma Islamiyah, had been in regular contact with Rahman and al-Zawahiri before his death. Late 1998, U.S. and Italian intelligence are already aware of an important mosque in Milan, Italy, called the Islamic Cultural Institute. After 9/11, the Treasury Department will call the mosque the main al-Qaeda station in Europe. U.S. officials will later say that al-Qaeda operatives involved in the 1998 U.S. Embassy bombing stayed at the Milan Mosque. This causes U.S. and Italian intelligence to watch the mosque more closely, and it also causes the U.S. to look closer at Al-Taqwa Bank. One member of the al-Qaeda cell in Milan lives in Hamburg, 9/11 plotter Ramzi bin al-Shib, for most of 1998. In 2000, Abdulrazak Majoub, the head of the Milan cell, lives in Hamburg, attends the Al-Quds Mosque in Germany, and has ties with some of the 9/11 hijackers. Al-Qaeda operatives involved in the failed Millennium Plot in Jordan also stay at the Milan Mosque. The Jordanian government will later claim that Al-Taqwa helped fund these Millennium bombers. Starting in late 2000, Italian intelligence wiretapping people associated with the Milan mosque and the Milan al-Qaeda cell record conversations suggesting foreknowledge of the 9/11 plot. This information is shared with the U.S. in early 2001. Additional evidence will come out after 9/11 suggesting that some people in Milan had foreknowledge of the 9/11 attacks. Given the closeness of the Al-Taqwa Bank to the mosque, especially through Nasreddin, this raises the possibility of Al-Taqwa involvement and knowledge of specific Al-Qaeda plots, including 9/11, the Millennium Plot, and maybe even the 1998 East Africa bombings. August 12, 2000, Italian intelligence successfully wiretapped an Al-Qaeda cell in Milan, Italy, through a wiretap conversation between Abdulsalam Ali Abdulrahman, a section chief in Yemen's political security organization, and between Mahmoud Saeed, a close associate of Al-Qaeda's second-in-command, Ayman al-Zawahiri. There are several significant aspects to the conversations heard by Italian intelligence. Abdul Rahman makes comments indicating he has foreknowledge of the 9/11 attacks. He says that he is studying airliners, comments, our focus is only in the air, and tells El Said to remember the words above the head. He also says that next time they meet, he hopes to bring Es Sayed a window or a piece of the airplane, and that the security on Antalya and at Rome airports is poor. The name of the operation is given as Jihadia, and Abdul Rahman also says the big blow will come from the other country. One of those blows no one can ever forget. He also adds, it is moving from south to north, from east to west. Whoever created this plan is crazy, but he's also a genius. It will leave them speechless. He also is heard to say, we can fight any power using candles and airplanes. They will not be able to stop us with even their most powerful weapons. We must hit them and keep your head up. Remember the danger in the airports. If it happens, the newspapers from all over the world will write about it. S. Said also remarks, I know brothers who went to America with the trick of the wedding publications. The phrase big wedding is sometimes used by Al-Qaeda as code for a bombing or an attack, including 9/11. And so, taken together with Abdul Rahman's remarks, this indicates an unconventional attack in the U.S. using aircraft. The two also discussed training camps in Yemen, which are proceeding on a world scale. They also mentioned youth in Italy, and presumably the youth are training. S. Said has also have to heard and reported, my dream is building an Islamic state, with Abdul Rahman replying, yes, the government of Yemeni is weak, and sooner or later we will dominate it. S. Sayed also asks a person named Ayman, evidently Al-Qaeda's second-in-command, Ayman al-Zawahiri. Abdul Rahman twice mentions the name of Abdul Majid, apparently a reference to Abdul Majid al-Zindani, a radical leader in Yemen and associate of Osama bin Laden. S. Sayed also makes the cryptic comment, one must be cautious, like in Iran, not a single photo. Beginning in October of 2000, FBI experts will help Italian police analyze the intercepts and warnings. Related conversations are overheard early the next year. Neither Italy nor the FBI will fully understand their meaning until after 9/11. But apparently, the Italians will understand enough to give the U.S. an attack warning in March of 2001. After 9/11, this conversation and others like it will cause U.S. intelligence to think there may be a link between 9/11 and the Yemen's PSO. Author Lorenzo Vendano will later comment, the chilling conversation alarmed officials before 9/11, but it also took on a completely different resonance after the attacks had taken place. Abdul Rahman, who had close connections to the highest ranks of Al-Qaeda, likely knew about the plan in advance and had told S. Sayed about it. August 12, 2000, Italian counter-terrorist authorities monitor a summit of leading Islamist militants near Bolgano, Attendees at the meeting, which is arranged through an extremist mosque in Milan called the Islamic Cultural Center, included Mahmoud Saeed, Abdulsalam Ali Abdulrahman, Ayub Usama Sadiq Ali, an Islamic Jihad leader and close associate of Ayman al-Zawahiri, and Muhammad Fazizi, the spiritual leader of the Moroccan group Salafa Jihadiyya, and also the Imam at Hamburg's Al-Quds Mosque. With Italian authorities allegedly having foreknowledge of a plot involving airplanes, informing the FBI in March of 2001, one has to ask, with all the repeated warnings from the FBI and foreign intelligence services, why could 9/11 have been prevented?